my junior year of college, I'm like, oh my God, going down the same road as my
Mhm.
parents are here. This is not good. I mean, we had broke up and gotten back together 5 million times, but I kept getting back together because he was the first guy I slept with. And I was told that I was dirty if I broke up with him and went off with anybody else. I was damaged goods because of the faith space I grew up in. So I thought I had to fight for this and make this thing work so I would be, because I wouldn't be acceptable to anybody else.
Welcome to Silent No Longer, where your past is a chapter and not the whole book. I'm Misha, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a safe, judgment free space for anyone healing from toxic or abusive relationships. Through faith and healing, I found my way forward, and now my purpose is to help others do the same. My hope is that you'll be reminded that you are not alone, your past does not define you, and healing is possible. If you are ready to take the next step, you can learn more in my book, Behind Closed Doors, schedule a free clarity call with me, or explore neurotransformation therapy coaching, now available to support you in rewiring limited beliefs and creating lasting change. Welcome back to Silent No Longer. Today, I'm joined by Melissa. Melissa is going to share today how she didn't know she had grown up in abuse until she went to counseling in her 20s. I'm so excited for everyone to hear her story because this happens to so many people, and this is one reason why people end up in toxic relationships as adults. Thank you so much for being here today, Melissa.
Thank you, Misha, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you just start out by telling us a little bit about your story?
Yeah, I grew up in a home with a lot of emotional and mental volatility, abuse. I had parents that had no idea what to do with their emotions, let alone their children's. And so at a very young age, I found myself managing, I was the oldest daughter, and I found myself managing the emotions of the house to try to, starting probably at like 6 years old. There was a real shift for me from 4 to 6, where like I felt like up through 4, I was pretty much living the little kid toddler's life. And somewhere in there, I started to understand that if I behaved certain ways or made certain choices, that there were going to be consequences. Not just there wasn't the freedom to be a kid. I needed to not ask why. I needed to sit down and be quiet and be good. And
Mhm.
being good is just not saying anything and being, and especially, and my parents had an idea of how they wanted me to be as a little girl, in my hair up in curlers and ruffles and frills, and I didn't want that. That was not what I wanted. I wanted to make mud pies and ride my bike and play outside, and so there was just these navigating these things, and there was a real shift in me from being kind of that feisty, strong-headed little kid to the very compliant, timid, check in the room all the time little girl, afraid of getting in trouble, and also as the oldest cousin and daughter, managing the younger ones to be like how to behave and how to not upset people. And that I took, that on early on. And then by the time I was 10, I was helping around the house in not just physically taking care of my younger brothers. And there had been some things that had happened. My dad had had a major work accident. My mom just had my third brother. And so there was a lot happening in the house, but I was not only asked to take on physical responsibilities, but also a lot of mental and emotional responsibilities, where I was more of a parent to some of my younger brothers than my parents were. And that was expected. And there was a lot, I heard a lot about dry it up, don't cry. A lot of what if I advocated for myself or asked for something different or was curious as to why something was happening, I was told to be quiet and quit being selfish. I mean, it was very much show up, be the good girl, do all the things we ask, get good grades, perform well and everything, and don't be a problem. Um,
Mhm.
and a problem was me voicing any kind of resistance or curiosity or question. And I learned very on, I would shut myself off in my room, disassociate, do a lot of reading, imagine I was somewhere else to
Mhm.
navigate the space emotionally. And I really started that room, shutting myself off in my room, starting when I was 6. And it just and they just thought, oh, she's just off in her room reading. it just kind of let me be. And I kind of created my own little safe world in there. And then I'd go out and be like, okay, what kind of mood am I going to get into? My dad, you know, moods were like this. My mom
Mhm.
was trying to lived, scared all the time of how he was going to be operating, and then she'd take it out on us. And if we weren't doing what she thought we needed to be doing to keep him happy, she'd start screaming and yelling at us. And so there was just a lot of this narrative going on where I learned how to walk in a room, assess the situation, and try to get everybody else in order to try not to upset anything. And this continued through my childhood. And as I got into junior high and high school and started seeing other dynamics, and my mom started getting very defensive about me spending more time at other people's houses than our house, and didn't like friends or their moms because she thought I was more attached to them and wanted to be up there more than I wanted to be here. And I did. And I was like, well, do something about the environment that you've created. I mean, and instead it was me that was the problem. I wasn't
Yeah.
appreciative, all these things. And so when I went off to college, I knew I wanted something different. But in my senior year in high school, I'd gotten in a relationship that, looking back on it now, it looked a lot like my parents' relationship. And I stayed in it for 3.5 years. It was very manipulative. Both of us came from very messed up family dynamics and parental dynamics and how our parents treated each other. It was very, kind of used a lot of my naivety against me. I had very much believed that I grew up in a very conservative religious space. And so there was a right way and a wrong way to do everything. So I was
Mhm.
constantly trying to be good, but so this relationship felt a little rebellious, like, okay, I'm going to step outside the lines. But what was it was rebellious, and it was also very toxic for me and unsafe and emotionally and mentally in so many ways. And we weren't good for each other, but it was very, very damaging. And I finally, my junior year of college, I'm like, oh my God, going down the same road as my
Mhm.
parents are here. This is not good. And I mean, we had broke up and gotten back together 5 million times, but I kept getting back together because he was the first guy I slept with. And I was told that I was dirty if I broke up with him and went off with anybody else. I was damaged goods because of the faith space I grew up in. So thought I had to fight for this and make this thing work so I would because I wouldn't be acceptable to anybody else. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
garbage going on. Finally got out of it, and person I was working for, she's like, "I think," I was going back and forth home a lot trying to help my mom get out of the situation, hoping I could get her to leave. A lot of things happening in the family dynamic, and she's like, "I think I that some therapy. There's a guy who works here. He helps our students for free. You don't have to pay for anything. It's part of being here. And I think he might be able to help you work and sort through this because you're taking on a lot of responsibility for a 21-year-old that I feel like, might not be right." And it was the first adult who talked to me about that in that way,
Mhm.
about my dynamic. And so started seeing this therapist, and he was like, what you've experienced after a couple of just telling him my life, like just what I thought was normal. He was like, do you realize that you've been abused? I'm like, what? I'm like, oh no. Oh no. I haven't been I don't no one's ever I have not been raped. I haven't been I mean, yes, I engaged in sex with this boyfriend when I didn't really want to because I didn't want to lose him, but I haven't been raped. And no one's beat me. And he's like, well, that's a whole other story. We'll get to that, but I'm talking about your family dynamic that you grew up in. That's mental and emotional abuse. And I was stunned. Like I could have fallen out of my chair, and I'm like, "Well, you better not tell my dad that." And he was like, "Well, that's exactly why we're having this conversation." It was the first time anyone had talked to me that way. And a little while later, the guy I started dating, who's now my husband, he started pointing out all kinds of things to me. And he was the first relationship where I could just be myself and just show
Mhm.
up as I was without having to be told what to wear, how to dress, what was and wasn't acceptable, all these things. And he's like, you don't have to ask me that or permission for anything. You just get to be who you are. I enjoy you. And it was such a those 2 things were, like, mind-blowing moments for me. And we ended up breaking up for a while because I had come up believing that I needed a man to be worthy, and I wasn't, it was my job to get married and have children and do that, and he's like, "I cannot be responsible for your happiness. That is you gotta figure that out." And it was
Yeah.
stunning to me. I didn't even know what to do with that. So I spent 9 months the next year really finding myself, continuing in therapy and really finding myself and figuring out, oh, yeah, it is my responsibility and I am capable of being happy on my own. I don't need a relationship. I want this relationship. I'm
Mhm.
choosing this relationship. It's not necessary for me. I'm perfectly able and capable of finding my way and providing for myself and finding happiness, but this adds to my life and I'm choosing it. And it changed the whole dynamic when we eventually did get back together, of how I showed up and the pressure it took off of the relationship, because these relationships aren't meant to carry that weight. And,
Yeah.
but that whole idea was foreign to me. So came a long way in that portion of time, but there was still a lot of things that just don't come up till later, till you become a parent and you just get into different dynamics of your life where these things that you were brought up with. I mean, my husband would say time and time again, I am not your dad. I am not your brothers. I'm not going to show up that way. I'm not going to
Mhm.
respond that way. You are safe here. And and so I kind of did another round in my 30s, but it wasn't until my 50s I still had a lot of anxiety and hypervigilance that I carried with me that would show up in these different peak moments of our lives and seasons. And at age 50, it really hit a peak of physical manifestations with high blood pressure, racing heartbeat, and panic attacks that I thought were heart attacks. I thought I was dying. Went to the ER twice in a 2-week period. We just moved. We've lived all over the country. My husband works in higher ed administration, and so we've worked on a lot of college campuses over the years. And I thought this was gonna be the easy move. Our 3 daughters were grown. I'm like, "Oh, this'll be easy. This is great. No new schools. All just find my job and move forward." And it was like my nervous system knew, "Okay, she's finally got time. She's finally gonna focus on me, and she's gonna finally have time to listen to me." And that's what happened. I really didn't have a choice. And my husband was like, "I've watched you navigate this for years, and anytime I've brought up anxiety, you've like, no, no, the world's just a hard place. And I just have to fight for you and fight for us and fight for the kids." And he's like, put down the gloves. Everything is not, you are living in this constant fight mode all the time. Anytime you deem a threat. And I didn't know the difference
Mhm.
between a real threat and not a real threat, not just like, oh, this
Yeah.
is something we can solve. And that really led to, I finally had to look at my body is not failing me. She's screaming at me to pay attention
Mhm.
and to listen and to finally sit down and feel safe enough to release and walk through and heal. And that was
Yeah.
really the beginning of that journey, and eventually led to the work that I do today with the framework that I've created.
Yeah. I've been working on that for the last year, and same as you, I've been in fight and flight my entire life, scanning
Yeah.
everything, trying to think of, like, how to keep myself safe. 'Cause same as you, it was around age 7, which I just realized, I just went through this training, and they, like, ask you, and this is kinda like what I coach on, I ask you, like, think of a feeling like fear. What age was it when you first thought of
Mm.
fear? Take yourself back to that, you know?
Mhm.
And every single exercise that I did took me back to age 7.
Mm.
And I was like, "Well, that makes sense because that's
Yeah.
when all the big trauma happened in my life, and it just snowballed from there."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Okay." So, my biggest thing that I just healed from, um, was, because I realized in the last, I don't know, couple months that my biggest thing is abandonment. Like, I'm scared to let
Mm.
anybody in because I've had so many people just either discard me or abandon me, and I don't wanna deal with
Yeah.
that anymore.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't make new friends. Anybody would mention dating to me, and I would have a panic attack inside. I was like, "Nope, I'm not doing that."
Wow.
And I just went over the exercise of not being good enough because that's how I felt when people would abandon me or discard me, like, "What's wrong with
Mhm.
me? Why does nobody wanna, be around with me? Why does nobody wanna be my friend? Why does everybody just keep leaving me?" And it all stemmed back to, like, it started at age 7.
Ugh.
And so, like, I went through the whole exercise and I released that, but I also realized that's why I hung on to people for so long. That's why I was in these relationships for so long because I didn't want them to be abandoned. I wanted to fix them. I wanted them to know, like, "Hey, I'm here to love you." Like, that's my job, and that's not our job.
Yeah.
It's not our job to sit here and love people who aren't treating us correctly and who isn't treating us like we should be and love us. So
Yeah.
when I get out of this relationship, I have to figure out, what is love? Well, clearly that's not love. And people ask me all the time, "Well, didn't you love them?" I'm like, I can't say yes because that's not love,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, we have a
So,
really disjointed idea of what love looks like. And we
mhm.
think it's abandoning ourselves and putting everything else aside to try to make them happy or change them. We've got the formula. We're going to solve all the issues.
Yep.
We're going to be the reason that they decide to do X, Y, and Z. That's not our job. Our job is
No.
to show up as the healthiest version of ourselves and find someone that's also trying to be the healthiest version and come together. But I mean, I grew up around so many trauma bonds and codependent relationships where
Mhm.
you show you show up for blood, you show up for family, no matter what it costs you. And you do that and it's like, okay, how we're showing up for each other is not healthy here. And I've done different boundaries through the years with my biological family. And finally, this last time, about 4 years ago, there was this line in the sand of like, I will not engage in this way anymore. I'm making a choice. So if you want to keep engaging in this way that sets my nervous system on fire, um, that is your choice. Just know that I will not do that. And they
Mhm.
didn't like that, and they're like, "Okay, well, then we just won't be in contact with you." I'm like, "Alright, well, that is your choice,
Yep.
and I will honor
Boundaries.
that choice." And, it's took me about a year and a half to not feel guilty anymore, to not feel
Mhm.
like I needed to go back and repair this, and people around me were like, "It's on them to they made the call. It's on them to call you." And be curious. It's not just your job to fix and repair and accommodate. That the
Yeah.
it goes both ways, and it was like finally after about a year and a half, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm so much more settled. I don't have this going on in my life that I'm navigating. I don't have this hypervigilance. I don't have these, worried about these things are going to happen where I'm all lit up again. And
Mhm.
it's like as sad as it has been in many ways, it's also been like it's so much simpler to not and to be free of that, and I remember I have 3 daughters that are grown now, and my oldest this was probably a few years ago when she said she's probably 25, 26. When she said this, she's like, "Mom, I have watched you bend over backwards my whole life trying to help these people, accommodate these people, get these people to change, get these people to see they don't want to do it and it's not your responsibility. And just because you were asked to take care of your brothers, they're not your responsibility now either. And the decisions they make are not your responsibility or your fault. So there's no, you were asked to be something for them that you were never should have been asked." And she's like, "I've watched you stand on your head." And she's like, "Mom, you don't owe those people anything." And to have your
Mhm.
child tell you that and hear it from her perspective of how she'd witnessed this unfold over the years was very eye-opening, and, so yeah, it is challenging, but I finally understand now. I get to choose who I surround myself with, and I get to also communicate expectations and boundaries to people, and if they don't want to respect those, that's their choice. Doesn't mean I did anything wrong. And I think sometimes we think we've got to fix everything. Oh, I did something. If someone doesn't respond when we communicate a new boundary or an expectation, no, it just means they're not used to you showing up that way. And it
Yeah.
so happens that maybe that relationship was only working for them the way you were before, and now it's not working for them anymore. So, and
Yeah.
you're worthy of more than that. And I really had to do a lot of work on understanding my value and what I call
Mhm.
embracing my layers, all the pieces and parts of my story that make up who I am. I don't have to love all of them, but an acknowledgement and really replacing judgment with curiosity. It's like, well, 18-year-old you made that decision about that relationship, and based on what she knew at the time and what had been modeled to her, it's no wonder she ended up there. And so we're not going to be mad at her or embarrassed by her or feel shame about that anymore. We're going to
Mhm.
we're going to release that and acknowledge that, given that where she was, it makes sense. And we're going to move forward from that. And so I always tell people, you don't have to love all the parts, but an acknowledgement and an understanding and an empathy. But the best thing my therapist told me, a lot of wonderful things. The best thing was the every time you feel yourself being judgmental, replace that with curiosity and try to meet
Mhm.
that person where she was, whether it's your 6-year-old self, your 10-year-old self, your 18-year-old self. Meet her, because I had to do a lot of reparenting of my inner child and let her know that I had things now, that she was safe. She didn't have to fight for me anymore, that I was okay. So there was a lot of years and going back and visiting that her and was me at these different ages and letting her know that I had it now and that we were okay and that we were safe.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's really good, because you really do have to think about your past and, like, what you've been through on your healing journey, and that's one thing I didn't wanna do, and I
Yeah.
fought it after, my divorce. I didn't even realize I was in a bad relationship, like, I knew there was a lot of toxic in it, but I didn't
Mhm.
quite sure what was happening. I just knew that, like, I was miserable pretty
Yeah.
much. Yeah, but as I was healing, I had a friend who kept asking me, "What was your childhood look like?" I don't wanna talk about my childhood, like, who wants to hear
Mhm.
that? And I always told him, like, "Think of a movie. Just take out murder and, torture and kidnapping. All of the rest of it, and any kind of movie you can think of, that was my childhood. Like, use your imagination," sort of thing, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm
Yeah.
like, "There you go. There you have it." And he was just like, "Well, why don't you like to talk about your past?" And I hated it so much. I
Uh-huh.
didn't wanna go back through all of it because I knew it
Yeah.
was horrible.
Yeah.
And, but going through the healing, I had to, whenever something would come up inside me, I'm like, "What? Why is this? Why do I feel like this? Why is this happening?" And I would literally have to think, "Okay, when was the first time that I had this feeling? Where was I at in my life? Like, what was the circumstance? What was my surroundings?" And that's how I started healing. But what do you have to
Mhm.
do? You have to go back through your past, right?
Yeah, you do, and
You have to.
you do. I mean, there's no getting around it. I tried to get around it until I was 50 and I couldn't carry it
Mhm.
anymore. So I
Yeah.
wholeheartedly agree. My biggest thing now is like, don't wait till you're 50.
Yeah.
There's a healthier, better way for you to go about it. But yeah, because it's hard. And I mean, I didn't realize how much I was carrying until I went
Mhm.
back. And I had a 2-week period. I remember this one time where I had really released and kind of put the finger on, "Oh, that's where that came from. Okay." And I did EMDR in my therapy for a long time to go back and kind of revisit these, and it really effective for me, but I had realized there was a lot emotionally that I'd never let out. And I cried
Mhm.
for 2 weeks straight, like, almost unprompted, and sometimes it was just light crying, and sometimes it was full on body sobbing.
Mhm.
And just because it was and my therapist was like, "It's gonna come up in all kinds of ways. It's gonna come up unexpectedly. Just try to soothe yourself." My husband, I'm very fortunate to have a great partner. He's a big guy who has very therapeutic hugs, and he would just wrap me up and hold me and just
Mhm.
let not no conversation, just let me until my nervous system would settle, and then but I was like, "Holy cow." I did not realize, and I literally felt physically lighter when that would
Yeah.
happen. It was
Mhm.
unbelievable to me.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too. It's like you wake up the next day and you're like, "Oh, I feel different today. I feel really good. Man, I should have done that a long time ago."
Exactly. I know, and I don't know about you, but I carried a lot of anger too, and so my therapist was like, "The anger needs to be released in a healthy way." So I want you, whether it's a rigorous workout, whether it's swinging a pillow at a wall where you can't hurt anyone and nothing can hurt you, to let it out. She's like, "Scream, yell, talk to whoever you wanna talk to even though they're not there, and let's start getting this out of you." And so I found this I had this perfect kind of brick wall on the this inner outside part of our house that I could go wail on it, not hurt me, not hurt anything. The neighbors may have heard things from time to time. Um, like,
Mhm.
I hope she's okay. But not
Mhm.
for the most part, I don't think so. And it was a safe place for me to just kind of let it all out if the workout wasn't enough and I had more and I had different prompts and things that I would be working through. And that was like, oh my God, I would be exhausted. I'd be sweating when I was done. But it was like, oh, wow. Okay. Not
Mm.
carrying that anymore. I mean, it's remarkable what we do to ourselves and we don't realize that. And I talk a lot about um, I don't believe in good or bad emotions. I believe in hard emotions or easier emotions, but we moralize emotions. And especially when you're in situations where they're trying to quiet you down all the time because they don't want you to be the problem, you just suck everything in.
Mhm.
And you don't allow yourself to feel anything other than what's
Mhm.
going to be okay and acceptable in the situation. And so what I learned is like, no, we emotions are clues. They're there to let us know something's up, that something needs to be dealt with, or something needs to be celebrated, whatever the case may be. But I lived with this foreboding joy for years, where it's finally the last couple of years improved a lot, where every time I felt any kind of joy, I was just waiting for the shoe to drop. Okay, what's gonna go wrong? This can't stay this way for very long. And I would not allow myself to feel the joy because I was so fearful of what was coming next. And it was just all these things that I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've been carrying this around the whole time," and what it does to our bodies and our systems, but so much unlearning and relearning. I really had to retrain my nervous system, and I'm still in process with the things that trigger
Mhm.
me, really retrain my nervous system of what was actually healthy versus what it was used to me experiencing and what was comfortable because the nervous system equates safety with what it's accustomed to. And so
Yeah.
that's and I had to learn about. I'm like, oh, so my therapist is like, just because you make a different decision and it doesn't feel right doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. You're retraining your nervous system, you're unlearning and relearning new patterns. And as you stay consistent with this, your nervous system will pick up on the fact, oh, this is how we're living now. This is safe. And that was a whole eye opening, like, oh my gosh, because for years I was like, if I got any pushback, I'm like, oh, I did something wrong. And I would, track back into whatever codependent, or hypervigilant habits that worked for everyone else but me, essentially.
When my nervous system reset or was resetting, it was quite a journey. Like, because I
Yeah.
never felt emotion before. So
Mm,
when my emotions started coming out, I didn't know what to do with them.
hmm. Yeah.
And because, I had somebody just ask me the other day, like, "What did I do after my divorce?" And I was like, I didn't know what to do. I drank a lot. Every single time an emotion came up, I would drink, just
Mm,
thinking that it would just go away because 'cause I'd never
yeah.
felt anything before.
Yeah.
And because when you're on survival mode all the time, you don't feel anything.
You're
You block
disassociated from everything.
yes, and, like, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it really. I mean,
I know
you literally
exactly what you're
have
talking
no
about.
feelings.
Yeah.
And so when you start feeling them, it's like you you I how am I gonna explain this? You kind of feel like, okay, the only way I can think of it is like you just have like a million pulses going through your body, like shooting through your
Mhm.
body all at one time, and you have no clue what's going on, where it's coming from, or what to deal with first.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling emotion for the very first time, you have all of them coming in at one time, and you've never had to manage your emotions before because you never
Mhm.
let yourself feel anything before.
Mhm.
So, what are you supposed to deal with first? How are you supposed to deal with it? Like, I had no idea. So I'm just like, "I'm just gonna drink and they'll all go away." That did not help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what we do though. We numb in various ways because we don't know what to
Yeah.
do with it. So whatever you mean, it could be drinking, it could be shopping, it could be eating, it could be,
Mhm.
there's so many, it could be exercise, over exercise. I mean, there's so many ways because we don't have any coping abilities and there's such an
Yeah.
overwhelm to it. It feels like so much is happening in your body at one time. For me, it really showed up somatically. I had all these areas of pain and numbness and stress and tension that I could identify in my body. And for a while, kept going to the doctor and like, there's nothing physically going on here. And I finally, my
Mm.
therapist and I, after about, she's like, this is somatically your body feeling all of this, and it's going to work itself out as we knock out these different things that we are targeting because you can't target everything at one time or it really does
Yeah.
blow up your system. And so I would start each day at that time. I would sit down and write down everything I was feeling just to get it on paper and in front of me. So
Mhm.
I could be like, okay, this is where I am today. And sometimes if I had more time, I'd be like, okay, where do I think this is coming from? Other times I just needed to know what it was. So I knew where I was and just even giving it that acknowledgement got it out of my head. I was like, all right, this is where I'm at today. So based on what I know here, what do I need today? Do I need a really rigorous work right? Do I need a long, healthy walk? Do I need some yoga? Do we need a lot of fun music? Do I need sleep? What is it? And I was fortunate that while I was doing this really hard part of the work early on, it was COVID. I was working from home. And thank God, I don't know how I would have kept a job during the time, honestly, because of all that was happening. So I was getting my work done, but I could do it at my own pace when I felt like it.
Mhm.
So I had the space to step away and do the things I needed to do. And that really helped me just get it out when I would just wake up just kind of flooded with all of this. I'm like, okay, just one thing at a time, just write it down without judgment, just write it down and get it in front of you. And then I had to learn not to get curious rather than judgmental was kind of the next step. But it is so, trying to figure out what to do with it. And then as I dealt with each one, I figured out, and this is how I came up with my framework just through this slog and through this. Because if you would have told me when I started therapy in the fall of 2019 and really went in hard this time, I was going to go through all I went through, I would not have done. I'd be like, oh, hell no, I'm not doing that. Now I can't imagine not doing it. I can't imagine still living the way I was living
Yeah.
before and carrying all of that. But it was a slog. And
Mhm.
over time, I was, kind of accidentally came up with this framework of things to ask myself and prompt myself and think about to keep me on track, to make sure that I kept moving forward and that I didn't fall back into old patterns. And that as I was unlearning and relearning things that kept me accountable and things to ask myself to remind me why I was doing this in the direction I was heading and kind of put that together over time. But it was it was a lot, and it was also just this time I had not given myself a lot of empathy or sympathy throughout my life, and so I had to really learn to be kind to me and talk to myself like I would talk to my daughters or like I would talk to a friend. Um,
Mhm.
and that's I because initially my therapist asked me, how's your self-talk? I'm like, "Oh, it's pretty good. I'm really resilient and I've gotten through a lot and I pretty much, I think it's good." She was like, "Okay, that's fine. Also, I want you to track that this week. I want you to."
Mhm.
Oh, I was like, "Oh my gosh." So yeah, I mean, I think if people like, where do I start? I'm like, start with tracking your self-talk. Like simply track your self talk, write down your emotions, track how many times you apologize for things that aren't your fault. I mean, those are the three big things that I was just like, wow, I am the over explaining, over apologizing gold medalist. Like, I've got that down to a science. So there is a lot to unpack. And as you do it, I just, be so patient with yourself and just that
Mhm.
one step at a time because it is a marathon. You're not going to solve it all in one day.
Yeah. And that's good that you talked about how your body holds all the
Oh my
emotions and
gosh.
all the trauma.
Yeah.
Because after the kids' dad and I broke up, I had an anxiety attack. I thought I was having a heart attack, and my mom's like, "Oh, you're fine. You don't need to go to the hospital." So I didn't go, but, like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I thought I was dying.
Mhm.
Um, and then after a while, my legs were always hurting. Like, I literally could not sleep, and I had to lay on top of them because they hurt so bad. Well,
Ugh.
come to find out, like, doctor couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. He's like, "Well,
Mhm.
I think you just have fibromyalgia," which I kinda wonder if all these people who are diagnosed with that just have so much trauma trapped in their body
I
because
know,
there's
because
really no
there's
reason.
no, and it's
Yeah.
not a real diagnosis. It's a name of
Mm-mm.
something they've come up with when they don't know what else is happening in your body.
Exactly. And I actually found out what was wrong with myself on my own, and,
Mm.
come to find out I have restless leg syndrome. Well, what
Mhm.
causes it is extreme stress.
Mhm.
So,
I
when
have
I'm
it too.
underneath extreme stress and anxiety, my legs will hurt so bad, and then I'll be like, "Okay, well, something's going on. Let's reevaluate my life. Let's figure out what it is that's bothering me because my legs is the first thing that will happen that will trigger
Mhm.
me that something's bothering you, something's going on in your life that you need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And I don't know. And then I can't take decongestions because of it.
Wow.
So yeah.
Well, I think it's
But
the
it
body keeps the score.
mhm. Yeah. So that was something that I learned real quick, because every single time something really traumatic would happen in my life, my legs
Mhm.
will hurt so bad, and, like, for weeks, I won't be able to sleep and but, yeah. And
Yeah.
then now, um, if I stress myself out too bad, because 'cause I'm really hard on myself, something I'm working on that.
Mhm.
But I'm just very hard on myself, and I'll stress myself out so much, I'll get a migraine. So I know when I'm
Mhm.
getting migraines, like, something's going on. What's bothering me? What do I need to
Yeah.
work on? Let's figure out, what's going on. Um, but I don't know. It's just like you have to pay attention to your body. Your body is telling you something.
It is,
And
and not ignore it and not treat it like, "Oh my
mhm.
gosh, my body's failing me. What's wrong with me now?" This language that we use, this really
Yeah.
doesn't help us. It's like your body's it's she's trying to tell you something. She's
Mhm.
letting you know something needs to be addressed and dealt with, and just changing that narrative for me was huge. Like, no, she's your friend, and she wants you to pay attention. She wants to help you. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, changing the way you look at that changes everything, but it was so eye-opening. The whole somatic piece was like, "Oh," and as I thought back over the years and I thought about these stomach things that I had going on or all these different things that had come up, I'm like, "Oh, wow, that was just the somatic response to the stress I was under in that particular situation." Um,
Mhm.
it's mind-boggling, really, what the body does and what it carries and learning to pay attention to the cues, but I think my biggest thing is, like, one day at a time, pick
Yep.
that one thing that you can do to keep moving forward and be gentle with yourself, and something that I started doing last year that was a great suggestion, again, from my therapist was, um, write down your wins every day, and I'm not talking about, "Oh my
Yes.
gosh, I got a raise." I'm talking about, "I did my workout today.
Mhm.
I fueled my body well today. I drank my water today. I had a great conversation with my friend today. Um, I allowed myself to take a nap today without feeling
Mhm.
bad about it. I listened to
Yeah.
my body and canceled that meeting because I knew I didn't have the capacity for it. And really embracing those wins and not just we miss these things. We do something and we move forward to the next thing. We don't stop to really
Yeah.
appreciate the wins. And that is such a huge piece too of learning to be gentle with yourself and seeing the wins in each day.
Yeah, that was a big one for me, and I didn't realize how much I did that.
Yeah.
Like, I wrote my book, and everybody's all like, "Oh, well, how do you feel?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They're like, "Well, you just published a book. That's something huge." I was like, "Is it? Is it really?" I mean, I said I was gonna do it, and I did it, and now I'm starting a podcast. Like, I've done moved on. They're like, you have to stop and celebrate things. But I mean, it took me, oh goodness, it was probably like 6 months after
Yeah.
I published my book that I was to the point in my healing that I was like, wow, that is a big
Mhm.
thing. Goodness, that's really cool. I wrote a book. It's just kind of funny. It was like 6 months later, it finally caught up to me. But
Yeah.
yeah, you really do have to. I mean, it takes work to get there, I think,
Mhm. It does.
just because when I was younger, that's how I coped in life. I always thought about,
Mm.
um, I always thought in the future, and I
Mhm.
had this whole plan of my life.
Yep.
And, because this is like when I fell really hard in life was because growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be a surge tech. Went to school for it. I was
Mm.
working, so that was like my goal since I was a kid, right?
Mhm.
I was gonna become a surg tech, marry a doctor, live in that white picket fence house, have children, live happily ever after, right? That's what got me through life,
Mhm.
basically.
Mhm.
Anytime something bad was happening, I would think about that. So then I went to school for a surg tech and I got almost um to the point where I got done with my basic courses to get in to the surg tech program. And I was in a really bad car accident.
Ugh.
And it was like hitting a brick wall. I didn't
Mhm.
have a plan B. And then on top of that, I had to move in because I lost my schooling because I
Mm.
couldn't go in the program now. And
Mm.
then I lost my job because
Oh
I was in
gosh.
this car accident. And then on top of that, I had to move into the house that I was sexually molested in and raped in.
Ugh.
And all of and in a very, very, very bad relationship,
Wow.
right? All of this at one
Yeah.
time. Like, I
Oh,
hit a
man.
deep depression for, like, 4 years. It
Mhm.
was so bad, and I was in so much pain because of the car accident,
Yeah.
and it was just like, I don't honestly, I sit here and I think I'm like, "How did I ever survive that?" I almost didn't, honestly. It was my kids. They saved my
Yeah.
life, honestly. But it
Yeah.
was just like, it's just everything fell all at one time, and looking back on that, I'm like, "That was such a hard thing to go through." But I made it, but I still had the same mentality of, "Okay, this is where I wanna be at in life. This is where I'm gonna go at. I'm just gonna keep working to the next thing. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that." And you can't. I mean, I couldn't do that forever because I just
Yeah.
kept getting disappointed because what I had in my head wasn't adding up.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. It takes so long to unlearn those things, even after you've gone through
mhm,
something so difficult, and but it's so wired into you, so wired into us, and what I learned is, like, it's not enough for me to say, "I wanna do this." I have to have a plan. Like, how am I
mhm,
going to go about shifting this narrative, unlearning and relearning new habits? And that was the game changer for me, is like, and it's that holding that balance of, I can be accountable without beating myself up. I
yeah,
can be accountable and empathetic and reasonable with myself. I can and because but that's not what had been modeled to me. It's like accountability means to, like, shape up or ship out and get your act together and and it's like, no, I don't. I can be gentle with myself and hold myself accountable to make the next healthiest choice for myself. And I think that's what I talk about to women all the time, is like, we have to remember that we have choice in this, and we get whatever happens to us, and many times
mhm,
horrible things happen to us that we don't have control over. And even within that, you found a way to choose to move forward, and that is and that's a win to celebrate. You chose to move forward. You chose to move to a healthier space. And sometimes it does take those other outer motivations, like our kids, to get us to do that. And also within that, learning that I'm worth doing that for. I'm
mhm,
valuable. And beyond all of this, I deserve to live well and live healthy. But when you've been hurt in the ways that so many of us have been hurt by people that were supposed to love us, that does a number on you in terms
mhm,
of your value and what you think you are worthy of.
yeah. And be gentle on yourself when you're trying to learn that
Yeah.
you're worthy because that's
Mm.
That was the hardest part for me to believe.
Yeah.
It took me almost a year to realize that I was worthy and I was good enough and I deserved to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Like, all those things was, like, the biggest lesson for me to learn, and it took so many people to tell me over and over and over, and I just was like, w it was like foreign language to me. I didn't understand what they were
Mhm.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, just like anything, it takes a while. You continue to practice these things until like,
Mhm.
okay, I think I'm getting this now. I think this is resonating finally and it's
Yeah.
it's setting in. But yeah, it is a process. It is not for you have to go in when people I do one-on-one empowerment sessions and I speak and I've got an online course and a podcast and a book. I've created a lot of different things over 4.5 years to just try to meet people where they are, whatever it is resource wise you need. I've got a variety of things here. So hopefully you can find something that supports
Mhm.
you and also bring all of your curiosity, all of your compassion, all of your empathy, all of your patience, because this is going to take time and practice and engagement by you and making
Yeah.
this isn't a quick fix, it's a journey.
Mm-mm.
There are things that will still trigger you down the road that you aren't expecting, but now you've got the resources and you know your value, so you know how to cope with it. But it
Yep.
doesn't make all, I thought when I started going to therapy, I'm like, I'm going to go to therapy for 6 months and get all the tools, and I'm never going to be anxious about anything again. And my
Ugh.
therapist is like, I've got good news and bad news for you. Good news, yes, I can help you with resources. Bad news, anxiety is part of our human makeup and it's there to serve us. We're going to change your relationship with anxiety. We're not going to get rid of it. And that was hard. I'm like, what? I don't and she's like, "The way your relationship with anxiety has been very debilitating for you. We're gonna shift that so that you are not living up here all the time. You learn how to live down here, and then when you do get anxious about something, you know how to differentiate on whether it's actually serious or just an old trigger." But
Mhm.
it knocked I went home, I'm like, "Oh, man, I am not gonna get rid." I just wanted to be I felt so debilitated by it that I just wanted it to be gone and learning that it was about changing my relationship with it. And once I could embrace that, then I was able to move forward and move into that space, but it was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, all so much patience with yourself and just being gentle and know that you're gonna take 2 steps forward and sometimes 3 steps back and 4 steps forward and 1 step. I mean, it's part of the process.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's a long journey. I feel like
It
it's probably
really
a
is.
lifelong journey.
I think so too. I think and that's why I call it layers because you unpack one
Yep.
layer and you learn about that layer and you heal and you move forward and something else comes up.
Yep.
Something else gets revealed.
Mhm. Yeah,
The difference is
definitely.
you know how to deal with it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good. Yeah, when I was, trying to teach myself that to be proud of myself, because that was a big
Mm,
thing.
yeah.
Um, it was during my journey of, like, getting my coaching certificate and writing my book and starting my podcast and everything. My kids bought me this little book for me to have, and I would write down all my goals for that month in it and
Mhm,
then check them off as I did them, and I would
mhm.
have to keep going back and saying, "Oh, this is what I did. Wow, I did a lot that month. That's,
Yeah.
that's good. Let's celebrate that." And I had to keep doing that because I would be so hard on myself that I wasn't doing enough. And then
Yeah.
I would get stuck in that cycle. "Oh, you're not doing enough. You could be doing better." And then you'd, like, go down spiral, to all the negative self-talk in your head that you're used to hearing all your life, and then so I would go back
Mhm.
to my book, and I would just look at everything
Ah,
that I've done. Yeah, but, I mean, it took a while.
yeah.
I'm not saying
That's
that I'm perfect and don't ever get hard on myself because I still do.
Mhm,
I'm very hard on myself, but, I like to feel that when I say I'm gonna do something, I do it, but I like to do it right.
mhm. Yeah, and I
So,
think so much when we come up in situations where your value is based on how you perform and how well you perform, it's really hard to
mhm.
break that
Yeah.
cycle of thought and learn. I'm still working on it. I mean, even now I've been doing this work for 4.5 years now. I've left the job that I was at when I started, you know, about well, it's been almost 3 years ago now. And this became my full-time focus. And my husband's like, you're treating this like it's still your 9 to 5 job. It's your thing. You get to do whatever it is that works for you within it. You are not married to this, cultural
Mhm.
narrative of if you have to work this many hours a week in order to be successful, productive, or effective, you get to decide that for
Yeah.
yourself now. And it was like, oh yeah, that's another like kind of hang up that I have to like kind of dismantle about what success means and what is success for me.
Mm.
And if that doesn't line up with what society tells you success is. I mean, so there's always something to unravel and unlearn.
Yeah, that's really good. I didn't even think about that, because that's my goal is to, um, because I'm gonna start coaching, like, I wanna start coaching consistently
Mhm.
to where, I can eventually quit my job, I like to call it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But, like, that yeah, to think, because I mean, clearly you won't have to coach as much as you have to work. I
Mhm.
mean, you probably have to work still a lot, but it's not gonna be the same as with the
Yeah, and
job.
well, and I think that's just the thing is, like, setting up for what works for you. I've really learned to look at my
Mhm.
calendar, not in terms of hours in the day, but in terms of my capacity. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can line up this day and have all of these things, but what's my capacity gonna be like? How well am I gonna be showing up by 4 o'clock? If I've been going at it since 8 straight with, just a short break, this requires a different kind of emotional energy
Mhm.
than my traditional job, so I have to be mindful of that and
Yeah.
mindful of what that is, and so I had to really learn what my capacity was, and it really wasn't until last summer that I started understanding, I'm gonna set my schedule up according to capacity, so I'm gonna look at, okay, how many podcast recordings do I have? How many meetings do I have? Am I speaking that week? Do I have a book club? All those look at the kinds of meetings that they are and what it's going to require you to give, and then determine how much capacity you have for that day. And that changed everything. It was like, oh, okay. All
That's
right.
really good.
Yeah. And it's something I'm still learning, but because I used to be like, I'd set up my schedule. I'm like, okay, I'm going to record, 6 podcast episodes today. And I get through the third one. I'd be like, oh my God, I
I
cannot have
imagine
another.
so.
I cannot not have another conversation, and I've learned 2, 3 at the very most, and 2 is better, and
Yeah.
then doing other things around it. I mean, but just really realize, okay, that takes energy
Mhm.
that is different, and I have to plan accordingly because I wanna make sure when I'm recording that I'm showing up well, that if I'm showing up well for my guest, whatever it is, and so that was a big shift of, like, no longer looking at the calendar in terms of time, looking at the calendar in terms of my energy and capacity.
Yeah, and that's a big thing to learn, especially when you're coming from, like, your whole entire life has been fight and flight. So,
Mhm.
that's really good.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm
Really
still
good.
figuring it out. My system is still fighting me, and, like, my
Yeah.
husband will call me on he'll call me, and he's like, "Hey, it's a beautiful day. Have you gone outside? Are you in the pool?" I'm like, "No, it's 2 o'clock." He's like, "You've been working since 8. It's 2. Who cares if
Yeah.
it's 2? You don't get paid hourly. You're not on" I mean, so what are you doing? I'm like, "Oh, you're right." It's just that, yeah, breaking those ideas of what we've been told is working. And
Yeah.
and 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 successful and means, I
Mhm.
heard I've had this big fear of being lazy because that was kind of a buzzword I heard a lot growing up, and my husband's like, "You are a lot of things. Lazy is never gonna be one of the things." And
Yeah.
we confuse lazy with rest and understanding what our body needs to refresh and
Mhm.
refill.
Yeah, I struggle with that. If I watch a movie or something, the entire time I'm watching a movie, I was like, should be doing this and this and this. This isn't productive. I need to
Yeah.
be doing this. I need to be doing that.
Yeah.
Or I have this to do. Oh, I should really be using this time for this. But really, I have to. mentally check out every now and then, because I
Absolutely.
mean, I work a lot. I mean, I do my job all
Mhm.
day every day. I have 3 kids still living at home, take care of my grandma. It's
Wow.
like we have doctor's appointments, and then I podcast 3 days a week, well, 2 nights and 1
Mhm.
day, and it's just like there's always something going on. Now I need to, like,
Mhm.
work coaching into my schedule, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness, it's so much." But, I mean, when you're building a business, it's a little bit more at first, but I'm a single
It
mom, so it's not
is.
like I can just quit my
Check out.
job, and build my business on my own. I gotta work it in slowly, so
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just I think learning capacity, it's like, okay,
mhm.
there's some things I need to say no to right now because
Yeah.
I gotta have that 5 to 10 to 15 to 30 minutes to refresh and refill each day. I'm not gonna be any
Yeah.
good to anybody if I run myself into a wall, but that word, that productive word gets us in just so much trouble at
Mhm.
times because it's like my productivity or not does not determine my value. I'm still valuable. I'm still worthy and
Yeah.
learning to not judge ourselves by what we deem productive. And there's nothing wrong with resting. There's nothing wrong with going outside and allowing yourself to lay there for 10 minutes and just refill and refresh.
Yep.
And so reframing what taking care of yourself well looks like. We wear this running ourselves into a wall like a badge of honor, and it's not good for us. It's not healthy. And
Mm-mm.
it just and it catches up with you. You can't continue like that.
Yeah. Yep, most definitely. I always try to make sure I have big gaps in
Hmm.
between shifting from one thing to another because you can get that break, you know, I don't know, have a cup of coffee, whatever it is, get a snack.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to overextend yourself. I learned that with my last job working at a mental health
Mm.
facility as a
Oh,
case
wow.
manager.
Oh.
I mean, it was like nonstop, and it was affecting me mentally and physically, and I was crying and, like, panic attacks. I mean, it was horrible, so I decided when I quit that job, I was like, "Never again am I ever going to work like that. If I
Yeah.
ever feel like that when I'm doing something, then it's not what I need to be doing."
Yeah. That's a clue.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yep. But things you learn in life.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, it's just being gentle with yourself. Like, you're gonna
Yep.
continue to learn, you're gonna continue to grow, unpack things, but, knowing that you're worth it, knowing that you're worth the time and that you're valuable and
Mhm.
that you've got resources to do it with.
Yeah, and don't compare yourself to other people.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's journey is different. Do not
Yeah.
comparison is the biggest disservice we do to ourselves. It is so
Mhm.
unkind to us. It is so apples to oranges. Everyone's on their own walk and journey.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you would like to tell the audience?
I
Any
think just
takeaways or anything?
the biggest thing I tell people, and I'm like, "You are worthy," and I've said this before, but I really believe it. You are worthy. You are worthy because you were born. You are worthy because you exist. No one gets to decide that, for you. You are, because you were born into this world. You are valuable, not because of how hard you work, but because you're a human being on the planet, and you get to
Mhm.
choose. If you don't like the narrative that's in your head, you can choose differently. It doesn't
Yep.
mean it's easy, but you're worth the choice, and doing that is not selfish. And if anyone is telling you that caring for yourself in a way that allows you to not abandon yourself anymore, if they're telling you that that's selfish, then that's a relationship you need to reanalyze and maybe set some healthy boundaries around. And that's what
Yeah.
I've learned. And I've got a framework called the FEEL framework that I share with people that I've learned that I accidentally created on my own organically
Mhm.
through this process that, allows you to stop and pause and ask yourself these questions to help you stay true to you, not what you were told to be, but who you actually are. And being curious about that and knowing your identity through who you are, not your titles and roles. I mean, that's a key question I ask people. Like, describe yourself to me. How would you describe yourself? And so many times they'll start telling me all their titles and roles. I'm like, no, 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 adjectives.
Mhm.
Who are you? Funny, creative, energetic, what, and they're like, "Oh." And, so, starting with those things and identifying those activities that nourish you, that fill your cup. Are you making space for those? Because if you aren't, you need to. That's part of how you energize and refill and show up well for others. And then, and then identify, how do I want to feel over the next 6 months, year? Okay, what am I doing to contribute to that? How am I participating in my own wellness and just never forgetting that you're worthy of that and you get to choose that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really good that you ask people what they think of themselves. I struggle when people ask me questions, like, still. It's like, I don't know why I struggle so bad. It's like, "Tell me about yourself." Really?
Yeah,
Don't
it
ask
is
me that. We just
most
not.
so many people are there. I mean, I cannot tell you how many people like, I don't know. I haven't thought about that. No one's ever asked me. It's a great conversation breaker. It's a great way to engage with somebody new and learning about who they are and not just what they do. Learn who they are, what
Mhm.
they care about, what lights them up every day. It just gives you a whole different angle. But what it does is it helps you to remember that your value is in that foundation because your roles and titles are going to change. Those seasons are
Yeah.
going to come and go. But knowing
Mhm.
who you are and what refreshes you is going to supply that foundation that's going to get you through those changes and understand that your value doesn't ebb or flow based on those changes.
Yeah. That's good. Is there anything you'd like to advertise about yourself?
If you go to embracinglayers.com, on my website, it's all there. I've got an online course that highlights the feel framework. I do speaking engagements. We have a book. We're in a book club with it for right now. I started doing one-on-one empowerment sessions. If you need a little more accountability, I've got my Feel podcast and my women's Together We Feel panel show. There's a variety of ways and resources to support you in living what I call your feel fueled life, knowing, finding empowerment, embracing your layers, knowing you're valuable and worthy. So it's all there at embracinglayers.com.
All right, that's awesome. And I'll link everything too.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
I did too, Misha. Thanks so much for having me.
If today's episode spoke to your heart, be sure to follow me and follow Silent No Longer so you never miss a new episode filled with healing and hope. Please share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. You never know the impact it could have. If you're ready to take the next steps in your own healing, you can take my free quiz to see if you may be in a toxic relationship. Schedule a free clarity call with me or read my story in Behind Closed Doors. Thank you for listening to Silent No Longer. Your story isn't over and healing is possible.